A new, deadly virus is wiping out people in large numbers. The country has been sealed off with a massive wall, and no one infected is allowed to leave. The Reaper virus is spreading rapidly across Scotland, killing thousands within a week. The nation is quarantined, and the borders are closed to prevent the virus from spreading further. Despite this, many attempt to flee the infected zone, rushing towards the fence. The military spots a man in the crowd showing symptoms of the disease and shoots him. His infected blood splatters on others, triggering chaos. The refugees, enraged, attack the military and try to break through the fence. The soldiers respond by opening fire on the crowd. The massive border gate slams shut, and a 9-meter wall now divides the country. Catherine and her young daughter also try to escape, but a bullet tragically strikes the girl in the eye. Desperate, the mother pleads with the soldiers in a helicopter to save her child. However, the last of the troops withdraw from the contaminated area, abandoning the people to their fate. From that point on, the wall running along the border separates Scotland from the rest of the world, with the military shooting anyone who approaches. Over time, those left in the quarantine zone devolve into savages, marauders, and cannibals, leaving the land north of the wall forgotten. Britain sinks into deep poverty, and other nations now treat Scotland as a threat. 27 years later, Eden Sinclair, a girl who was rescued during the chaos, has become a major in a special forces unit. She replaces the eye she lost as a child with a prosthetic equipped with a camera that can operate independently and transmit data to a wrist device. Eden leads a raid on a slave trader's ship, targeting a man named Richter. She and her partner, John Michelson, infiltrate the ship from different angles. Meanwhile, Richter is in the middle of a deal with buyers when Michelson accidentally reveals his position. Richter kills the customers and takes John hostage. Eden uses an electronic device to scan the hallway and assess the situation before emerging and aiming her gun at Richter. The slave trader threatens to kill her partner if she doesn't back down, but Eden steadily advances, keeping her weapon trained on him. Suddenly, the situation takes a turn for the worse for Richter. Now, with nothing standing in her way, Sinclair opens fire on the slave trafficker. After the operation is complete, Eden reflects on a note her mother left her 27 years ago. Her superior, Captain Bill Nelson, approaches her, seeking details about what happened on the ship. Eden hands him a disc containing footage recorded by her prosthetic eye. "I'll never get used to that," Nelson remarks before noticing the old note. Eden expresses regret for forgetting her mother's face and never being able to visit the address on the note. Captain Nelson cautions Sinclair that overworking is detrimental to her health and advises her to take some rest. Soon after, the security service conducts another raid, this time on a drug den. During the operation, the officers accidentally discover a room full of people infected with the Reaper virus, their bodies covered in horrific sores. "Oh my God, it's black," one of them exclaims. High-ranking official Michael Canaris, along with Prime Minister John Hatcher, convenes an emergency meeting to devise a plan to combat the virus. Some ministers propose flooding all canals around London and closing the bridges to isolate the city from the outside world. However, Captain Nelson warns that even rumors of the virus spreading again could devastate the city, leading to uncontrollable panic, with bodies of the infected piling up in the streets, resulting in chaos, looting, rape, and murder. After the meeting, Hatcher and Canaris show Nelson images from a spy satellite that has been monitoring Glasgow and Edinburgh for years. The satellite recorded no activity in the abandoned cities until 3 years ago, when signs of life appeared on the streets of Glasgow. Canaris is convinced that if there are survivors, a vaccine must have been developed behind the wall. Bill Nelson is tasked with assembling a team of top agents to infiltrate the restricted area, find the vaccine, and bring it back to London as quickly as possible. "I just fit the bill," Nelson says. He summons Sinclair and briefs her on the mission as they drive. Before getting out of the car, Eden hands Bill the note from her mother and asks him to keep it safe. Michael Canaris reveals that Dr. Marcus Cain was researching the Reaper virus before the quarantine was enforced, and his lab was located at the Glasgow Hospital for Infectious Diseases. Canaris is convinced that only Cain could have developed the vaccine and advises Sinclair to begin her search at his lab. Sinclair and her team have just 48 hours to carry out the covert operation. "If it's there, I'll find it," Sinclair vows. Meanwhile, the residents of London are growing increasingly enraged by the strict quarantine measures, and the riots Nelson warned about have begun. Hatcher consults with Canaris, hoping to find a solution, but Canaris argues that the quarantine zone should not be evacuated. He believes that the more people they try to save, the higher the risk of the epidemic reoccurring. Sinclair soon arrives at the wall on the Scottish border, where she meets her team. Sergeant Norton, Corporals Chandler and Reed, Rifleman Miller and Carpenter. They brief Major Sinclair on the equipment and weapons prepared for the mission. Joining the team are two military doctors, Talbot and Sterling, who previously worked at the Reaper Virus Research Center. As the military opens the welded gate, the task force enters the restricted area in two armored vehicles, uncertain of what lies ahead. On the way to Glasgow, Dr. Talbot plays recordings of radio messages from Dr. Huang, Cain, who stayed at the hospital until the last possible moment. In the messages, Cain describes the horrifying transformation of the city and its inhabitants. Upon reaching their destination, the team cautiously enters the abandoned hospital, searching for Cain's lab. Suddenly, Chandler spots a young girl in front of the armored car and alerts Sinclair. The Major orders him to stay away from her, suspecting she might be infected. However, Chandler believes the survivor needs help and approaches her. The exhausted girl collapses into his arms, and Dr. Talbot suggests isolating and examining her. Chandler carries her to the car. Finally, the special unit locates Cain's lab, but they are suddenly ambushed by a group of violent and aggressive savages. A brutal battle ensues, during which Carpenter tragically loses his life. The savages begin throwing Molotov cocktails at the armored vehicles. Chandler and Reed attempt to escape through the back exit. Suddenly, the girl Chandler rescued regains consciousness and slits his throat. A car crashes into the building, but Chandler manages to destroy it with a grenade. The savages continue their assault on the remaining team members. Sinclair decides to leave the hospital using the elevator. Eden shoots the cable and detonates a foam grenade in the shaft to cushion their fall. Corporal Reed manages to gather Major Sinclair, Sergeant Norton, and both doctors into the armored car. However, the marauding savages show no sign of letting up. One of them shoots Reed with a crossbow, causing the car to overturn as the girl loses control. The remaining team members scramble out of the vehicle and return fire, but they soon run out of ammunition and the savages close in. Miller is brutally killed by the mob. Norton and Sterling manage to escape, while Eden and the injured Dr. Talbot are captured by the marauders. Sinclair regains consciousness as a prisoner of Saul, the deranged leader of the savages. Saul, a sadistic psychopath, brutally interrogates Eden, demanding to know who she is and where she came from. Under duress, Sinclair admits that she is from beyond the wall. Saul, now convinced that Cain was lying about the conditions beyond the wall, believes Eden might help them escape the zone. He orders his men to keep a close watch on her, making it clear that she must remain alive. Saul's girlfriend, nicknamed Viper, takes the GPS beacon given to Eden by Canaris before she entered the zone and crushes it under her boot. Meanwhile, the savages celebrate with a wild party featuring songs, dances, and various performances. Saul delivers a passionate speech on stage, declaring that neither Cain nor anyone else can dictate their actions. He proclaims that they are always ready to capture, cook, and eat any outsider who enters their city. The party culminates in a gruesome feast. Saul throws paper plates into the crowd as Dr. Talbot is brought to the center of the arena and roasted alive. The crowd cheers as Viper slices the doctor's body into pieces, and the cannibals eagerly devour their grim feast. Meanwhile, Eden devises a plan to escape her confinement. She pulls a wire from the broken GPS beacon and uses it to unlock her handcuffs. Shortly after, a guard arrives and delivers a piece of Talbot's remains. Sinclair pretends to be unfazed and requests a drink. As the guard approaches the door, Sinclair grabs him by the chain connecting his nose and ear rings, forcing him to let her out. Eden escapes from her cell and neutralizes the guards with their own weapons. A girl from the adjacent cell, named Kelly, pleads for help. Sinclair hesitates until Kelly reveals that Dr. Cain is her father. Kelly promises to assist in finding him if Eden frees her. Suddenly, Eden is attacked by Viper, who is armed with two swords. Sinclair skillfully dodges the attacks. During the struggle, Eden manages to grab one of Viper's swords, and they continue to fight evenly. At a critical moment, Kelly grabs Viper by the hair, allowing Eden to sever Viper's arm and head. "You can let go now. Move it," Eden says. After escaping the prison, Eden contacts Norton and Sterling, arranging to meet them at the train station. Soon, Saul realizes Eden has escaped and orders his men to find her. Norton and Sterling, emerging from hiding, are spotted by savages on motorcycles and in a bus, who begin their pursuit. Norton and Sterling rush to the train station, where Eden, Kelly, and Kelly's friend Joshua are already waiting. Joshua starts the train early to escape the approaching marauders and leave the town. The train departs, and Norton and Sterling are forced to run after it while dodging attacks from the savages. Norton manages to board the train, and Sinclair decides to help Sterling. She dismounts and strikes one of the motorcyclists with an axe. At the last moment, Sinclair and Sterling manage to jump onto the train. Kelly then informs Eden that she can only help find Cain, but cannot lead her to him. Kelly believes her father will see Eden as a threat because he mistrusts everyone, particularly those from beyond the wall. If Cain's followers learn about this, they will realize he has been lying. Kelly also reveals that the deranged cannibal Saul is Cain's son and her brother. "What a messed up family," remarks Eden. The team disembarks from the train and travels a long distance to an abandoned military base. Kelly and Joshua explain that this is the route to the other side of the woods in Cain's land. Once in the dense forest, Kelly and Joshua hear rustling and realize that the executioner, Cain's right-hand man, is about to arrive. While Sterling, Kelly, and Joshua attempt to flee, Sinclair and Norton decide to stay behind. To Eden's surprise, Cain's men emerge from the woods, resembling medieval horsemen clad in armor and armed with bows and spears. Despite their efforts, Kelly, Joshua, and Sterling are captured. Joshua is shot with an arrow, and the others are taken prisoner. Eden and her companions are brought to Cain's ancient castle, where he has declared himself King of Scotland and revived medieval customs in his realm. Cain reveals that he chose this secluded location to avoid surveillance, anticipating that someone from beyond the wall would eventually come seeking answers. However, Cain disappoints them by admitting there is no vaccine. Their survival, he says, is due to natural selection. Eden informs Cain that the Reaper virus has resurfaced, but Cain is enraged by the government's request for his assistance, insisting that they started this crisis and must deal with it themselves. Meanwhile, in London, the virus wreaks havoc. An infected individual infiltrates a government building, using an axe to murder a security guard. He bypasses all security measures using his severed arm and head, and eventually makes his way to Prime Minister Hatcher's office. Although Nelson manages to shoot the intruder, the infected fluid contaminates Hatcher's face. Canaris orders Hatcher to be isolated in his office, where the Prime Minister ultimately takes his own life. Cain, determined to maintain his power, plans to execute the intruders from behind the wall. He severely punishes his daughter for allowing outsiders into their territory, branding her with a red-hot iron. For Eden, Cain devises a special trial. She must fight the heavily armored Telemon with only her bare hands. A crowd gathers in the arena to witness the gruesome spectacle. Sinclair skillfully evades Telemon's massive spear and counterattacks. She manages to grab a weapon from a guard and delivers a powerful axe strike to Telemon's helmet. Meanwhile, Norton, Sterling, and Kelly manage to escape their confinement by overpowering the guards and unlocking their cell. Furious at Telemon's unexpected defeat, Cain orders the immediate execution of the remaining prisoners. However, Norton, Sterling, and Kelly use this opportunity to make their escape. Using the seized weapons, Eden, Sterling, and Kelly fight their way out of the castle and flee on horseback, heading towards a nearby military installation. Cain orders his marksmen to eliminate Eden, but Norton intervenes, shooting the warrior and saving her. The group escapes Cain's territory, pursued by the knights. At the secret base, they discover a new Bentley. Sterling fuels the car while Eden finds a phone. Norton stays behind to secure the gate and prevent the knights from following, but he is fatally wounded by an arrow. Eden, Sterling, and Kelly drive off, evading their pursuers. Eden calls Nelson to report the mission's success. Nelson passes the call to Canaris, who plans to track their location. Suddenly, they are pursued by savages in a police car. Eden evades them, but a motorcycle crashes into the Bentley, shattering the windshield. Sinclair swerves and shoots out the police car's tires, causing it to plummet off a cliff. More marauders, led by Saul, soon appear. Eden decides to confront them head-on, forcing them to dodge her car. She then turns back toward the border, with the savages closing in. Saul manages to board the Bentley, and a fierce struggle ensues. Saul attempts to use Eden's gun against her, but accidentally shoots one of the motorcyclists. The pursuit becomes chaotic, with cars crashing and exploding. Sinclair and Sterling manage to push Saul out of the car, but he climbs onto the roof and tries to strangle Eden. A marauder bus blocks their path, but Eden rams it at full speed, decapitating Saul. The Bentley breaks free and heads for the border, where military forces and Canaris arrive. Eden hands Kelly over to the military, explaining that her immunity to the virus can be used to create a vaccine. However, Canaris plans to withhold the vaccine until the pandemic has spread globally, consolidating his power. Eden chooses to stay in Glasgow, visiting her childhood home and reflecting on old photographs. At the address from the note, she is found by Nelson, who has arrived in a helicopter. Eden gives him a disc with a recording of her conversation with Canaris, confident that it will bring Canaris to justice. Nelson departs, and Eden returns to the savages, presenting Saul's head and being welcomed as their new leader.